Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to allow a few more people to join the webinar before we get started. If you would like, you can introduce yourself in the chat box and business, and then we'll get started exactly at 12. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taya Brown, and I am the Administrative Coordinator here at the Temple SBDC. The Temple SBDC helps businesses start, grow, and succeed. We do this through our no-cost consulting, webinars, and training programs. We are proud to be a part of a nationally accredited network of SBDCs across the United States. You are joining us today for Accelerate Your Business with paid digital advertising campaigns. A copy of the slide deck and recording will be sent to all attendees within 2 business days. All attendees have been muted. We do kindly ask that you remain any questions until the end of the webinar. Now I'll turn over the floor to Connor Sheridan.
Thank you. Welcome to Accelerate Your Business with paid digital ad campaigns presented by myself, along with the SBDC. Like she mentioned, my name is Connor Sheridan. I am also an entrepreneur and a current client of the SBDC. I've been on the other side of the screen taking webinars on topics that I wanted to learn a little bit more about, so happy to return the favor today. Ty will be collecting any questions, throw those into the chat. I will be waiting until the end to answer those questions, so just hold tight. Once we get to the end, I'll answer any questions. There's a chance that your question might be answered throughout the actual presentation. So, like I mentioned, my name is Connor Sheridan. I've worked in digital advertising and marketing for about 15 years, mostly in client-facing, account, and team management roles, providing strategy and execution on a number of digital channels and platforms. I've worked across search, display, social, creative, mostly for digital and tech companies, but also a digital marketing agency, and worked across a number of different verticals, including automotive, retail, e-commerce, CPG, and service. Last year, I also launched my own digital marketing agency called Second Gear Digital. After working for a digital marketing agency for quite some time. My goal with my current company is kind of help small and mid-sized businesses like yourselves with their digital marketing challenges. I also started working with the SBDC last year when I was starting a different business, which I'm still currently working on, which is working to open a brewery. So today we're going to continue to use 2 characters that I'm going to introduce now as kind of examples of good strategies for paid digital advertising. We're going to kind of come back to these throughout on different slides. So I just want to introduce them here, and then we'll reintroduce them as the time needs. The first is Jack. He owns a running shop. He owns this store in Philadelphia with 2 locations, but he also has an e-commerce site where he can ship to customers across the US. They focus on selling shoes, apparel, anything that you need for running. And then also Jill. She runs an accounting firm. She lives in Pittsburgh, where she mostly works with her clients, but does have some clients outside that metro area. And she'll work with people on their personal accounting, think your annual taxes, but also focuses her business on working with other businesses to help them with their accounting needs. So jumping into the presentation today, what is paid digital advertising? There are a number of different forms of digital marketing, but what we're going to focus on today is the one highlighted here in red. You'll often hear this referred to as pay per click, PPC, paid social, paid search, paid digital advertising, paid digital marketing. It's all pretty much the same thing. Within this webinar, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of just setting up campaigns and launching them, but more of setting a foundation. And we are going to focus on paid search and paid social, since those are the 2 most common out there, and that's where we tend to see the most money being spent. Starting with paid search, I think we're all familiar with Google. We probably use it on any given day dozens of times. But I want to set a foundation here. Again, it's important to note the difference between different aspects of this page that you're seeing. Google has also gotten a lot less obvious over the years over what's an ad versus a placement on that page that is not an ad. But for most commerce or service related searches, you are going to see ads at the top of the page. Typically, these will be indicated with a little marker that says sponsored. And anytime you click on these, that click is going to be paid for by an advertiser to Google. Anything else that is not marked as sponsored content is organic. This is entirely based on Google's algorithm and how the brand or website is set up. And again, these are not paid for. These are entirely organic and based on an algorithm. Similarly, on the social side, those ads are also going to be integrated into your feed, sometimes very inconspicuously. They also will have a sponsored icon on them. One big difference here is that they're typically not at the top of your feed. They'll be kind of integrated throughout. That's partly because the social platforms know that you're going to continue to scroll, and they'll kind of just place them in between the content that is from accounts that you follow. There are also going to be content on your social feeds that is suggested content. That does not mean that these are ads. It just means that they are based on your interests, your past activity. The social platforms are trying to get you to follow additional accounts. But again, the ads are going to be run through a platform. If you click on the ad and engage with the ad, the advertiser will then pay that platform for the ad. Now we've covered that customer consumer facing side of the experience. I want to cover some really important terms that are crucial to understand if you're going to be running any paid digital campaigns. The first is SERP. This is just an acronym for Search Engine Results Page. You'll often hear digital search marketers talk about the SERP, winning the SERP, where their ad is on the SERP. Obviously, the higher up on the page, the more likely you are to be seen, the more likely you are to be clicked, the more likely you are to engage with the future customer. So it's really crucial that understanding how the search page is set up is going to play into your success. And then campaign, this is really just any collection of ads that are meant to promote a very specific product or a service or a brand, a company, a business through any media channel with a very specific goal. Obviously, in our cases, we're going to be setting up campaigns through search engines and also social media platforms. Keywords, this is really specific to search, not so much social. But anytime you go into Google and you search a specific term and you're getting served an ad, that advertiser had determined that that search term was relevant to their business, their product, their service, and they chose to target that search term with an ad. And we call that a keyword. And then the ad itself, this could be really anything, as long as it's creative-based, image-based, video-based, copy, messaging, really anything related to your brand, your business, your product, your service that you're using to represent yourself within your campaign. In every single platform, there's going to be different specs and different ways that these can be formatted. Even in Google, where it's just text, that's still considered an ad because an advertiser had to set up what that was going to look like, what the copy was going to be, where it was going to be directed. So it's still an ad, even though it doesn't have a huge creative or image or visual component. And then the audience. Think about your target customer. Your target audience is also it's very similar to what your target customer is going to be. Within any one of these paid digital platforms, you're going to be able to determine what audience is most likely going to see your ad. And if you know who your target customer is, you can kind of align those two. These audiences are just going to be groups of people with similar interests. Maybe it's just based on geography, behavior, demographics, or just some of their past activity across the internet. And then a few more key terms. Anytime you are seeing an ad within a paid digital experience, that was based on what the advertiser set up on the back end with through either a bid or a bid strategy. You're essentially telling Google, you're essentially telling Facebook how much you're willing to pay to get in front of that customer. If you're willing to pay a lot and serve your ads, millions of times, You might reach a ton of customers, but if you're going to be a little bit more conservative, you might not reach as many customers. You'll set a lower bid, a less aggressive bid strategy. And this has a direct influence on your cost per click. The more aggressive you are with your bid, the more you're telling Google, for example, how much you're willing to pay for every time a potential customer might click on your ad. This might mean that every time they click on it, you're spending significantly more than if you were less aggressive, but you're more likely to get in front of that customer. So you got to be really conscious of your CPC, your cost per click, because the higher that metric is, anytime you're setting up a campaign, the more money you're going to spend, and potentially the less efficient your campaign is going to be, which obviously impacts your ad budget and your ad spend, which you also need to provide to any platform that you're going to be running paid digital marketing through. Otherwise, they'll just blow through your budget in a day, in a week, even if you want to kind of space it out over the course of months and months at a time. And then lastly here, a conversion. Think of this as just the desired action that you want a potential user or potential customer to take when they interact with your campaign. For a lot of businesses, they're going to want that customer to immediately make a sale, a purchase, or some kind of actual transaction. But for a lot of businesses, they might just need to collect that user's information to generate a lead so they can then reach out to kind of close the sale afterwards. Basically, whatever's valuable to your business is what we'll consider a conversion when setting up a campaign. And very related to conversions are some of these key strategies here. These are just 4 strategies that I wanted to focus on that I felt were going to be most relevant to our audience, but there are tons of other strategies out there. But again, I felt that these were most relevant to what I think small and mid-sized businesses are going to be focused on. The first is awareness. This is probably the most simplistic objective out there, where your goal is simply just to make your business more known to potential customers out there. Maybe you're a newer business, maybe you're new to a specific market, maybe you've got a new product or a new service, and people just aren't aware of it. And your goal is simply just to spread awareness. And the end goal there wouldn't necessarily be to get people to become a customer, but just to get them to consider you and kind of keep you top of mind. Obviously, though, if you're running a business, you need to make money. So one of the common strategies is a sales or transaction strategy for paid digital advertising. And this is just simply focusing on selling a specific product or service to a customer directly. Lead gen might make sense for your business if you typically know that they're not going to convert right away after engaging with an ad. Maybe you just need to collect their information and then reach out to close the sale. But typically, you'll have businesses that either focus on lead gen or they focus on the sales and transactions. It's not as common that you'll see them do both, but there are some cases out there. And then local marketing. This isn't necessarily unique or a specific type of strategy. It has a lot of overlap with these other strategies, but knowing that a lot of small businesses are very local to maybe even one geo, one metro, one city, I wanted to make sure we covered on this. And local marketing, also pretty straightforward. It just means that you're targeting a lot of your marketing, your messaging, your creative to a very specific geographic area. And then reintroducing Jack. Remember, Jack runs a running shoe store. His focus is going to be a little bit of awareness. His running shoe stores aren't that old. They've been around for maybe a year or so. And he just wants to make sure that everybody within the Philadelphia region knows that these stores are out there. If you're really into running, he wants this to be your go-to store to buy your running shoes, your apparel, anything else you need for running. Also, he needs to drive sales. So he prefers driving sales in store. So getting people through the door is a big focus of a lot of his marketing. But because he has an e-commerce website, he's also okay if they buy the product on the website and he's able to ship it to them. And given how much more profitable his transactions are, if he can get them into the store, he has a big focus on local marketing. And for Jill, she has a pretty good foundation for a business. She's been doing this for a number of years, but she's always got a little bit of extra room for more clients. So she does a little bit of awareness marketing just to make sure that she's kind of the known trusted accountant in the Pittsburgh area. But She really relies on lead gen strategies to ensure that she's getting that information for potential clients and customers so that she can then reach out, discuss their business a little bit more, and make sure that it's a good fit before they sign on as an accountant client. And then she does have clients outside of the Pittsburgh metro, but because she lives there, because she's very familiar with the market, because she likes to meet with customers in person, she has a local focus as well. And then we're going to touch on some of the key players in search marketing space. I think these are all platforms that you're very familiar with, but I want to get into some of the details about them. Google, again, we've already touched on them. They are the dominant force in search marketing, 85% of the market share right now. The other advantage is that it's not just search. You can also run ads across YouTube, Gmail, Google Maps, millions of websites, pretty much anything under the Google platform. About 77% of the revenue that Google makes is purely based on advertising. They've slowly started to kind of expanding beyond that, but a lot of the services and different products that they provide don't actually make Google that much money. They still heavily rely on just driving money from ads. And that's why so much of what Google provides is free. And then the little brother to Google is Bing. Bing is owned by Microsoft. It is a bigger chunk of the pie than you might think. They have about 8% of the search market. One advantage of their ads platform is that they run ads for Yahoo and DuckDuckGo, which are two small, even smaller search engines. So even though those search engines, they manage their own algorithms for the organic results there, Bing runs the ads on the back end. So if you run ads through Bing or Microsoft, your ads could potentially appear beyond just the Bing search result page. And then because we are having a big local focus, I wanted to talk a little bit about Yelp. Yelp isn't going to be right for every small business. It's going to be really those businesses with storefronts, restaurants, bars, shops. I think a lot of us think of Yelp as like a review website, but it is also a search engine because people might go there to discover new places nearby that they want to shop or eat or drink at. So if you run a business with a storefront, Yelp could be an opportunity to get in front of new customers. And then Amazon is another one where we might think of it as one thing, but it does have a pretty big ads component. I think we primarily think of it as this massive marketplace website where you can pretty much anything under the sun and have it arrive on your doorstep a day later. But over the past 10 years or so, Amazon has actually built out a pretty huge search ads platform. So if you are a business that sells and makes products, physical goods, Amazon might not just be the platform where you sell them, but it might also be a platform where you market them. If you run ads through Amazon, you can get at the top of the search result page. A very high percentage of people start their search journey for products on Amazon. The only downside of Amazon is that if you're running an ad there, you then have to sell the product there. So if your goal is really just interacting with customers on your own website or in your own store, Amazon kind of takes that away from you, but obviously a huge audience to go after. And then OpenAI and ChatGPT. AI right now is the biggest buzzword I think I've seen in marketing and in my entire career. And a lot of us have probably engaged with ChatGPT. OpenAI, the parent company for ChatGPT, recently announced they are going to release a search ads platform. A lot of people who used to just default going to Google to search for something are now doing that on on ChatGPT. So OpenAI wanted to take advantage of that to create an ads platform. I expect AI to be a huge, huge, huge disruption in search over the next decade, social as well, but search even more so. And Google as well has really started to lean into it. If you do any search on Google right now that isn't really product or service focused, your search result will include like an AI component. So AI is going to be hugely important to digital marketing over the next 10, 20 years. And then also reintroducing Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill lean heavily to Google. It's where there's a huge audience. We know how dominant of a force it is in search marketing. When people are going to look for, products or services, it's often where they start. So Jack and Jill lean heavily into that platform. And then Jack, because he does have two storefronts and he knows that foot traffic into those stores is really crucial for his business. Anytime people might be searching for, athletics stores, apparel stores, shoe stores, running stores, he wants to make sure that if they're doing that on Yelp, that he's at the top of the results and gets them coming to his store. And then switching over to the social media side. Meta, similar to Google, is that dominant force in social marketing. Meta owns Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and WhatsApp, as well as Threads. Threads just doesn't do ads yet, but if you run ads through the Meta platform, you can run ads through Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp all at once. It's really still the dominant force, but has lost a lot of market share over the past couple of years to TikTok. If you follow the news at all right now, you've seen the news about Meta getting banned, and then they were unbanned, and now it's unclear what's going to happen. I still think that they're probably going to have to sell the company. It's currently owned by a Chinese company. Going to have to be owned by a United States company, I think, for this platform to exist moving forward. But they have a few months to figure it out. But they definitely face some regulatory hurdles. But really explosive growth over the past couple of years. Pretty similar audiences to what you see on Meta, except it probably leans a little bit younger, but that's changed over the past couple of years where it's really just taken a lot of market share from Meta. And then LinkedIn, if your business primarily sells to other businesses, B2B, LinkedIn might be a good opportunity for you. The ability to target professionals in very specific industries, very specific roles, very specific companies. You can hit them with ads in a way that might get them to be a little bit more receptive to your messaging than what they might be on Meta or TikTok, especially if your business is not as consumer facing and more business facing. So LinkedIn is a good opportunity for specific types of businesses. And then on the flip side, Pinterest, a very visual discovery engine. A lot of people go to find new fashion, recipes, home decor. So if your business exists in any one of those industries or verticals, Pinterest might be a good opportunity for you to get in front of some new customers where people are kind of already in the mindset of discovering new products. And I didn't include X or Twitter here. I don't think of them as a great fit for small businesses outside of maybe some extreme cases. Their their advertising business has shrunk a lot in the past couple of years. They've leaned heavily into some other ways of generating revenue. They still have an advertising business, but I just don't feel like it's a great fit for small businesses as much. So I didn't include it here. And then Jack and Jill, similar to both leaning into Google because of the huge audience, both heavily invest in Meta as a way to reach their potential customers. Jack has a strategy for TikTok, dabbled it in a little bit. He's kind of scaled back. We'll touch on that a little bit more. He's just wary of spending too much time and money right now on TikTok if he's not sure that the platform is going to exist in a couple months. And then Jill leans into LinkedIn a little bit. Like I mentioned, it's very business to business focused, and she has a big component of her business where she primarily wants clients who either own or work for businesses and wants to get them as accountant clients. And now we're going to jump into a little bit more of the nitty gritty on what Jack's strategy is going to be. Again, he runs that running goods store. Ultimately, he wants people to come into his store to buy products, try them on, get the sale right then and there. It's usually a little bit more profitable for him. He can get them to be more repeat customers by having that good experience. But he knows that people like to shop online, so he does have a website where all the products are sold there as well, and he'll ship it to them not only in Philly but also across the entire country. He spends a good amount on ads, about $8,000 per month. He knows that He's going to have a high volume number of customers. They might come in only once a year, every other year. Some might come in multiple times a year. But their average order value between $150, $200, not super high. So he's going to largely rely on a metric called return on ad spend, ROAS, to kind of gauge his success. He knows that if he's putting money into these ad campaigns, he needs to see a good dollar amount coming back, whether it's from those e-commerce sales or high volume of foot traffic. So for Google, that's where he invests a lot of his money. People just searching for, what are the closest running goods stores near me? He targets those to Philly specifically. He doesn't want to be targeting people outside of that metro area, knowing that they're not going to drive to his store. And then he really targets keywords related to running shoes. So think if you just go to Google and search running shoe store near me, he wants to be top of the page for that result. And then campaigns where his products are being featured specifically. So he's got Nike, Saucony, Asics, and he has those products specifically featured in the ads where people then can click through and drive to the website, make a purchase, and then he'll go ahead and ship it to them. On Meta, he also spends a decent amount, but not nearly as much as he does on Google. On Facebook and Instagram, his ads are also targeted to users in Philly. He feels that that platform is better used to just kind of create awareness and foot traffic to his stores rather than focusing traffic to his website. In those ads, he features his store, what it's like to be there, the brands, all the different brands that he features and sells, which specific products, new products, and then also the great customer service. He knows that sometimes people come in not knowing what shoe they want, but his staff is really good at helping them find the right shoe for their foot. And then Yelp. This is a pretty small portion of the budget, but he does know that there are people who might use Yelp to find which store near them is going to be able to sell running shoes or sporting goods, specifically in Philly. So he spends a little bit of money there as well. And then, like I mentioned, he was on TikTok briefly, just doing some awareness campaigns where he featured his staff giving some good running tips and product recommendations. But because of the uncertainty around TikTok, he shifted that away back to Meta and Google. If it becomes clear that TikTok's going to be around forever, he'll shift some money back there as well because he was seeing some pretty good engagement. And then Jill, she's going to have a very different strategy because she has a very different business. Ultimately, she wants to drive traffic to her website, gather leads through a submission form, and then turn those users into accounting clients. She knows they're mostly going to be from Pittsburgh, but does service a few customers across the United States if they happen to come upon her. And she doesn't spend nearly as much money on ads as Jack. She only spends about 4,000. Part of that is because she only has so much capacity to handle new clients on any given month. So she doesn't want to overwhelm herself. And she knows that even with a few new customers per month, she's going to be in pretty good shape. She's going to measure success very differently than Jack does, however. She only has so much time. She's the only person who works for her accounting firm. She can't necessarily take on an infinite number of customers. She doesn't have staff to help her manage those customers. So really what she's focused on is ensuring that with the money that she spends, she is bringing in enough leads where she can convert at least a few of those leads to new customers. And then also she's not necessarily focused on a return on the ad spend because she knows that each customer might only pay a small amount in the first month or first year, but she knows that those customers are going to be repeat customers. So customers stay for years and years and years. So the long-term goal is a little bit harder to measure when you're looking at ROAS. So what she really focuses on is a cost per lead. How much money does she have to spend to acquire one lead? And with Google, she has a good amount of her budget being spent there, about $2,500 a month. She runs those campaigns to target users who might be in the market for a personal accountant. Think if people go searching for a tax accountant for my personal taxes, that's who she wants to get in front of. But she also runs separate campaigns targeting different users who might be searching terms related to business accountant, small business accountant. Those types of terms are going to be a different type of customer. And she knows that those might be higher ticket customers and spends a good amount of budget on those. And then she does run a little bit of money on Meta. With Meta, she's not necessarily focusing on targeting businesses or business owners. She's really focused on finding high income users in Pittsburgh who might be looking for a personal account. And then on LinkedIn, it's the opposite. She doesn't spend a ton of money here, but she knows that on LinkedIn, she can target business owners and business employees looking for an accountant for that business. And she knows that like what industry they're in, what role they might be in, and can focus that specifically in Pittsburgh because for those clients, she does like to meet them in person. She doesn't want to have to travel across the country to meet them. She wants to be able to drive and meet them within a day. So starting to wrap up here, there's a lot that goes into building a digital marketing ad strategy. Every business is going to need a unique plan because every business is unique. When you start out, it might feel a little overwhelming, but the first thing you need to start do is start asking yourself some really important questions. For example, who is your target customer? For a lot of you, you might know exactly who your target customer is, but if this is something that you don't spend a ton of time thinking about, anytime you go to set up a campaign, a big chunk of setting up that campaign is understanding who your target audience is going to be. And then also, how does your target customer typically discover your industry's product or service? Is this something that they typically actively look out, for example, on a search engine? Or is this something where they might more passively discover for, maybe, specific products or fashion brands, things like that? That might be better suited on a social engine. You can find ways to, leverage nearly any of these platforms for various strategies. But you don't necessarily want to just kind of cast a wide net across any platform with any budget. And the budget is hugely important. If you don't know what your starting budget is and what you're willing to spend, I would not recommend starting out on paid digital advertising because you will immediately start beginning to pay Google, pay Meta, pay TikTok, pay Amazon if you start running campaigns. So having a good understanding of like where your business's finances are and what you're going to be willing to spend on marketing is very important. And then on the flip side, how are you going to measure success? You might be spending the money, but you want to know what you're getting out of that. Does your business prioritize driving sales and transactions, or does it prioritize generating leads through your marketing? Ultimately, what are your goals? Just because you are getting a return on your budget that you're spending doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be profitable. You want to understand what's going to make the most sense. What kind of return are you looking for? Or for example, what kind of cost per lead is ultimately going to make you successful? So being able to answer a lot of these questions will set a good foundation, kind of point you in the direction of which platform might make sense, which campaign type might make sense, and kind of set that foundation for an initial digital marketing ad strategy. So thank you for your time. Like I mentioned, I do run a digital marketing agency. If you're interested in working together or like some consulting or have any questions, feel free to reach out. I put together packages for any business based on their specific needs. And I have my contact info here if you would like to reach out. So I am going to stay on and answer any questions, whether you've already asked them in the chat or if you'd like to ask them now. So I'll pass it off to Taya to let me know if there was any questions.
We do have a few questions, and if anyone has any questions now, you can post them in the chat or Q&A box. I also have included a quick survey, which is required by our funders. That way we can continue to provide no-cost programs like the one you're attending today. The first question is from John Thomas. How do I determine which paid search platform is the best for my type of business rather than trying one or two of them? Given my limited financial resources for one person business, what type of resources are available for me to review and make my decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's without knowing exactly what your business is, it might be tricky to know that. But like I was touching on that last slide, it's kind of important to know how do people typically discover businesses in your industry? Is it something that they actively search out when they're in need, or is it something that they might passively discover browsing social media, they might discover a new product or new brand. I think understanding like how your current customers might typically come across you could point you in the right direction. For example, if they've found you through Google, but it was just organic and you're not feeling like you're getting enough traction on that side, it might be worth investing in some ads on Google. But if you get a lot of word of mouth, customers, that might mean social is a better opportunity because you can kind of think of social as word of mouth. You're casually scrolling through social media, not necessarily looking for anything particular, but all of a sudden something's being suggested to you. So it's very dependent on what your business is, what you typically do to acquire customers. But asking yourself some of those questions, I think initially can help you get pointed in the right direction.
And then more from John Thomas that maybe for additional support for his business. He has a recruitment firm where he is not fully established, but again, he wanted to know if with additional resources, which would be the best for his ad campaigns.
So I missed the question at the end.
What would be best to maximize his ad campaigns?
For recruitment firm, I like knowing that now, I think Google is going to be a good platform for you because people generally know when they have an opening and they need to hire a recruiter. It's going to be less common that they might be scrolling through like various social media platforms and all of a sudden get hit with a recruiting ad and feel like they need to reach out. But I think it's one of those services where people are going to be saying, I need a recruiter now. I'm going to go to Google and find what's best. Having said that, LinkedIn might be the one social media platform. A lot, like even LinkedIn says that we're not really a social media platform, we're a networking platform, but I kind of bucket it under social media. But LinkedIn is where you're going to be the most successful on the social side. In terms of like actual resources, again, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Feel free to reach out. Each of the platforms themselves will also offer some resources, but for small businesses, they don't typically offer dedicated reps. I worked for a digital marketing agency for some time, and for the larger clients that I work with, Google might have like a dedicated rep to work with us to make sure that the client's getting the most out of their ad spend. They don't typically always have that opportunity. So that's where you rely on either resources that you can find through their platforms. It's just a little bit of self-education, or I'm happy to have that conversation if you want to reach out.
And at this time, there's no additional questions. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Connor, for presenting. We will send out a follow-up email that will include the slide deck and recording for the session, and it will also include the survey link if you haven't taken it yet. If you have any other additional questions, you can reach us at sbdc@temple.edu.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.